You're sitting there in New England, you're in the Boston area somewhere, I believe. I mean, do you ever have any interaction with the Red Sox? Are they ever going to either get mad at you or try to hire you or what's the story there? Do you feel like I'm sure you grew up a Red Sox fan. How do you feel about all this?
Well, it definitely is always a joking matter at family occasions. And, I have had some people now, I show up at the ballpark and they say, "Hey, get out of here. You've already gotten Cam and Ben. Leave this guy alone. You can't get another guy."
John, we have the potential MVP of the American League joining us today, and he hasn't put on a uniform this year, thrown a pitch, or swung a bat, but he did lead to the Yankees getting Ben Rice and Mr. Schlittler, and because of that, the scout Matt Hyde is joining us on the show.
Yeah, I'm very happy that Matt Hyde will be joining us, scout extraordinaire. It is really unbelievable that in the seventh and 12th rounds, they came up with potentially the AL MVP, potentially the AL Cy Young winner in Rice and Schlittler. This guy has had an incredible year. He's a great guy. We both know him well because he's such a great scout that he brings these great players to the Yankees, and he does it from his hometown of Boston, Massachusetts, killing the team that I'm sure he grew up watching. And I'm going to ask him about that, what the reaction is there, because he's, fairly well known in that sports crazy city of Boston. And they know that he's stolen two stars for the chief rival Yankees. So it'd be great to talk to Matt on our show.
Yeah, the enemy within. We're also going to talk about the Yankees as they head towards the trade deadline, what they need to buy. We're going to talk about the Mets, buyers or sellers. I think we're probably leaning in one direction, and we'll talk about that there. We'll play hit and error in the end if you stick with us on the show with Joel Sherman and Jon Heyman. Well, John, since we last got together, a New York team did win a championship. The Knicks won it all. Unfortunately, you and I are old enough to at least have some memories of the two previous ones and this one. And I think when this season began, John, I think we thought both New York teams were going to have a real shot at getting their Canyon of Heroes moment as well. I think we might be down to one. I have vacillated on the Mets a lot this season. And look, I want to give you flowers for this because last year I kept saying, come on, John, they're going to win 8 out of 10 down the stretch at some point and get in the playoffs. And you were screaming about the odds on places like Fangraphs and just saying it is not as good as they're saying. And you were on the team a lot, and you just kept telling me they're in trouble, they're in trouble, they're in trouble. And I want to say, like I early this year, I just expect them to play better. I know there's three outstanding teams in the NL. We keep saying the National League's good. I'm like, there's three really good teams, and the Mets should be able to jump into that mess just underneath it. And I keep expecting them to jump in the mess. I overreact to them doing something like winning 2 out of 3 over the weekend to Atlanta. And then they get just bulldozed by the Reds last night. And I'm probably going to be wrong about this. And they're probably going to have to be sellers in about 6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, that was very nice of you to say that. I did pick the Mets to win the division this year. That does not look good right now. I mean, obviously we're doing this after the 12-0 defeat to the Reds. That was about as bad a day as you can have, right? They used Tobias Myers to start. I don't think they're going to do that again. That did not work. They announced that obviously Scott went on the IL. That's brutal. He's been very good. Now they say it's not that serious, but I mean, IL for a young pitcher, it's not a positive at the very least. And Senga is going to start now, a guy I believe they have no faith in, no matter what they say. So it is all pointing negatively as we do this. Of course, it's a very long season. It goes up and down and whatever, back and forth. But I'm with you. They look like a seller. They sold a few years ago. Steve Cohen was there at the time and cut bait on much more famous, more accomplished players like Verlander and Scherzer. I don't think they'll hesitate to sell if they don't think they're a World Series contender. And right now, they give no indication that they are a World Series contender this year.
Yeah, John. Again, you were on this earlier than me. Again, this year. I'll say this: when I was in spring training, and I fell for it, I think. I think if you gave even truth serum to the people who run the team, they would have said one of the strengths of the team was starting pitching depth. And it's just turned to me, I know the offense has been terrible. It's been terrible. I mean, they're historically for them terrible, and it needs to be better. And I see a way where it gets better. Maybe Lindor comes back in a week or so. I think you said the target date was the 20th, maybe the 22nd against the Cubs. They start a homestand. Maybe that feels like something he's close. Do they ever get Polanco on 2 feet and just DH him because they messed up and didn't listen to the industry, which really said that he was going to have trouble with his lower half, staying on a field and being a productive player. But it's this pitching thing, John. It's like they can't come up with a formula. It feels to me everyone who's trapped in this, Myers, Peterson, is just miserable with being jerked around. And I know the answer is always the Buck Showalter answer: play better, and then I'll start you. You know. And yet I come back to this, and I'm with you. I feel the negativity from the Mets about Senga. But I kind of feel, and we're doing this on a Tuesday morning, that his start tonight is important. Before he got hurt last year, he was one of the five best pitchers in the National League for 2.5 months. To me, it feels like their last chance at this thing is, can Senga be good for 2.5 months? I know he's never going to stay healthy serially, but can you give him 2 months? Can you get him to the trade deadline where they can at least consider a trade the other way? And we're certainly going to talk about them being sellers here, John. But I kind of like, is that a 1 in 5 chance, a 1 in 6 chance, or no chance in health in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give them a 1 in 5 chance. I mean, there is some chance, and you know, they certainly should get better with Lindor coming back. That's a big piece, obviously, that's been missing. But their offense has been, one of the two or three worst in baseball. That's been their biggest problem. But you're right about the starting pitching, and I wrote about what great depth they had right at the end of spring training, and it's gone. I mean, it's okay if you're not really sure about your fifth starter, but they weren't really sure about their fourth starter, and now they're not even sure about their third starter now that Scott's out. So you basically have McLean and Peralta, and both have really underperformed the expectation, but those have been their two solid starters who are healthy, active, whatever. I mean, Holmes was great, and very bad luck that he got hurt. That's bad luck, and they've had bad luck. So it's not all that they messed up everything here and there, but they have had bad luck. I don't consider Polanco bad luck. He has a history of injury. And look, they replaced the guy who never missed one game with a guy who's now going to miss every game going forward, it appears, right? So that's not a matter of luck. They didn't put enough into the reliability factor. So they made mistakes, and where do they go from here? I do believe that they will end up being a seller. I think they have a decent chips to sell. It might even be Holmes, but certainly Peralta, certainly all the relievers. The bullpen is the one area where it's been very good, right? And I think you probably can get something pretty good for the lefty relievers, certainly Raley and Holmes. I'm sorry,
Minter.
Raley and Minter. So I think they can have a decent sale. I know that's nothing great to look forward to for the team, for the fans, but I think that's probably what we're looking at now.
John, I think you used the perfect word, and I want to repeat it. I think they could have a decent sale. But unless Peralta pitches a lot better, I think
Yeah,
it's decent. I mean, do
yeah.
they do they recoup the Brandon Sproat, Jet Williams level of prospects for Peralta? Maybe. Can they trade Holmes if he's like trending in the right direction? Yes, but not what they could have if he obviously was staying healthy. The lefty relievers, to your point, are both good and are the kind of guys who get traded, but you get stuff. You don't get, they're not closers. They're not like Chapman or Hader or Miller, guys who, if you think about if those guys get in the marketplace, what those teams might get in return. Is Luke Weaver with $10 million owed next year, but pitching well this year? Does somebody look at it and say, well, I would give him a 1 year, $10 million contract next year, so I'm willing to trade for him because he's got a lot of big game experience and he's pitched real well, but it just feels like that. Can I throw out two other names? Do you think Lindor gets into the market if he's healthy? Do you think Bichette gets into the market, or do the triggered options by a player just scare the hell out of everyone? Or is bats so needed, especially righty bats who have proven they can hit in
Yeah.
big spots, that somebody says, "Okay, I believe he's going to opt out. I'm going to take roll the dice for the rest of the year."
Well, I'll never say never. They figured out how to trade, Verlander and Scherzer when they were making 43 million a year, right? They just paid the money down. So I'll never say never. If you pay it down, the opt-outs certainly are a factor, though, with
Yeah,
the
I think he's
Bichette.
very hard. Yeah.
Yeah, that it certainly changed the equation. He is hitting like he hits now, right? And he's been solid defensively at third and at short. Now he's hitting well, so he certainly would be. Good for somebody to get. I mean, certainly would help teams, but they'd have to figure out, and they probably could. Didn't There was some complication about the Scherzer deal at the time too, if you recall, and
Yeah.
they figured it out, right? There was some kind of option or something going on that they figured out. So things can be figured out. Lindor, I find it doubtful. I mean, I just don't see that happening, but he can reject, right? I mean, he's 10-5 at this point, right? So, would he approve a trade somewhere else? I
And
doubt
he's
it.
also got 5 at 160 left after this year.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
to do that, I mean, he might be worth 5 at 160. Maybe
my
I like him better than others. I don't know. I think he might be worth that, maybe. But to do that off of an injury year in the middle of a season when you've got the CBA coming, I'm not sure teams will be lining up for that either.
Yeah, John, I think I'm with you. I just want to throw it out as what
Yeah.
would make it real interesting for them. On the subject of shortstop, look, I think it's pretty clear the Yankees over the next 6 or 7 weeks are going to do everything they can to get a righty hitting catcher. I continue to say that Ryan Jeffers, if he could come back from this hamate surgery, and he's about 4 weeks into healing, and they're hoping maybe by the beginning of July in Minnesota he does. I know their owner said beforehand that he expected them to contend, and he laughed when somebody said that when they're told in spring training their over under was 73. He scoffed at it. By the way, going into yesterday, they were exactly on 73.
Yeah.
So I kind of think he hits lefty pitching. He has a long history with Travis Swanson, Tanner Swanson, the Yankee catching director who used to work for the Twins. I think they're going to do some bullpen, though I also think that some of it will be internal, like Carlos Agrange, a starter falling out of the rotation, like Weathers, when and if Fried comes back, etc. But I think they're going to have to look at the Josh Hader, like who's ever out there, like kind of
Yeah.
kind of guys. John, I think they need a shortstop. I think you could con yourself
Yeah.
and say, hey, they got Volpe, they got Caballero, maybe they have Lombard coming in late July, early August. I'm like, to me, there's like 5 or 6 teams that are really, really good this year. The Yankees might be the only one in the American League, though I continue to think Seattle's going to be good, but they just took a couple of steps back again in the last week. I think they've got to go for the chip if and who knows because the Houston owner Jim Crane has said the window never closes here. Well, the window sure looks like it's closing there, and they have to think seriously about it. Jeremy Pena is a Scott Boras client. He's a free agent after next year. Their likelihood of being able to extend him, I would assume, is if not zero, pretty close to it. This is a moment to maybe maximize that and try to get a boatload. And if the guy who was the 2022 ALCS and World Series MVP became available, I would work real hard to try to do it. And I have no idea. I know aggregator shitheads are going to do things with this. I have no idea if he'll be available. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
always assume not. Like it's like the Bichette Lindor thing. I always assume it's easier not to trade somebody than to trade somebody. But man, if he were available, I'd try hard for him.
Yeah, I mean, Houston does not want to sell. I believe Jim Crane. That's the way he operates. He does not want to sell. They have a manager and a GM in the last year of their deal, so they're not going to encourage him to sell. Probably not. Not that any manager would anyway. I've been talking about Christian Walker and some other guys potentially. Yeah, it's a potential. It's possible. I don't think it's that likely. I mean, I think catcher's kind of their bigger issue than shortstop. Their catchers are hitting 173 this year. Obviously we know that Wells is out now with the headaches. He wasn't hitting. I don't know whether it was because of the headaches or what. The other guys have not hit. They've had limited time, but yeah, I mean, I think if Jeffers is right and he had the hamate injury, once he comes back, that makes sense to me. Again, I think that owner came in there because somehow he overthrew, I don't know, overthrew is the right word, but his brother was in there and he
Yeah.
sold a lot of pieces. They traded 11 guys last trading deadline, and
And
this
added
guy.
no one really in the offseason, and you say you're going to be better. I mean, it's hard to like
Yeah, I
see
don't know.
what's
Yeah,
going to
I'm
happen.
not sure why they thought they'd be better. They do look like a seller. It's another case where the owner's not going to want to sell after making the big proclamation about the 11 guys they traded. We'll see. They have pieces. I mean, they've got Ryan, the pitcher. They've got Buxton. I'm talking about a team that could have a great
Yeah.
sale. That's one that could. And Jeffers is a free agent after the year. So to me, that one makes sense if he's back and healthy. So I like that one. I mean, Yankees will probably put in a call on Hunter Goodman. How close are the Rockies? He's still got 3 years to go. He's really good. He's got 20 home runs, right? And that's probably a long shot, but put in a call. They're more likely to end up with probably a Christian Vasquez type guy, and that's again Houston. But even if you don't sell, you could trade your backup catcher. To me, I would go a catcher more than shortstop. You've got Lombard coming. I get the fans are all over Volpe. Defensively, I think he's okay, right? He's okay defensively. He's not hitting 173 like the catchers are hitting. I would go shortstop, but I get it. I could see either one.
So I think I began this by saying they are going to get a catcher and they are going to get a reliever. The question for me is, do they feel like they have to do the next thing also? John, I think Volpe's a second baseman. And I think because he grew up a Yankee fan in Jersey, he wants this so badly. I think it works against him for just the passion. It's like I just think he needs to calm down. I think he's going to be a good Major League Baseball player. I think it's going to be hard here. I think the more Caballero plays, the more I think, he's probably a super sub to move around because I think the thing you have to have at shortstop, you and I know, I hate to speak for you, you'll tell me if I'm wrong, feel similarly about this. The modern analytics hated Derek Jeter. And I get it. There was, especially that ball up the middle of the field, he was not good at going and get. But when the ball was hit to him, it was an out at 100% of the time. And to me, your shortstop has to create the out when the out is there to do it. Like you can't screw around with that position. And I feel like the routine gets away from Caballero a lot. And I feel like the routine sometimes gets away from Volpe because he has a short arm and he's always trying to rush everything to hide his arm. And Lombard could play defense. Does he come up and be part of the answer here? I don't know. But they could win this year. And I would be uber aggressive, especially on that singular player. I don't think there's really anyone else who I would like. I think you got to live with it. Like Seager's hurt again and
Yeah.
put a ton of money. The Lindor thing we went through. I don't think the Reds are up to trading Ellie De La Cruz yet or anything like that.
What
Like
about CJ Abrams?
I just think he's a second baseman too, and I think he messes up the routine a little bit too much. And I'm just like Pena to me is this solid, going to field every ball, is a great base runner, is at least an average to a little above average hitter. He's championship proven. And again, I emphasize this, I'm with you. I think Houston will do everything not to sell, though I think they're like 8 or 9 under right now as we speak, John. And it's a hard road back, but the American League stinks, and the Mariners refuse to run away from them. So I could see it staying open. I'm just like, this feels like a year for the Yankees to get uncomfortable with their prospect base, which they really protected at the top last year. And I don't, now there's some proof of concept. Volpe played in a World Series 2 years ago, so I know you could get there with him, and he played really well. I don't see the championship shortstop right now.
Yeah, I mean, to me, catcher is just a bigger issue. Yeah, I know you said they're going to get a catcher, but I would even look at a starting catcher.
Yes, I think Jeffers is a starting catcher.
Right, Jeffers or Goodman.
Goodman
Th-
strikes out a ton, right?
yeah,
Like, don't you? Like, I'm always thinking guys who strike out a ton in the regular season are so easily pitched to in the postseason.
got 20 home runs. He is right-handed, which is another plus. I mean, it's certainly a big upgrade. I don't know. I mean, Pena, it was proven, right? Obviously, he was a World Series MVP
Yeah.
and an LCS MVP. So I wouldn't be opposed. I don't know that they have any untouchables. I don't think they're gonna. I don't know. I mean, they have prospects. They can make
Yeah.
deals, right? They do have deals. Let's just go from that way. They can do deals, right? Whether
Well,
they
let's say,
trade. I mean, it doesn't have to be Dominguez or Spencer Jones. They've got pitching. They got Hess. They got Legrand. They got a lot of guys. Legrand, I think, is probably a solution to the relief. So they probably stay away from that one. But they've got prospects. They can do deals. Are these guys getting traded though? I mean,
yeah. Yeah, I'm
we've
with
got
you,
questions
John.
on all of them.
Yeah,
Houston, Minnesota, are
yes.
they? Washington is now 3 games over. I mean, are they? Can they really trade Abrams when they're over? I mean, they may still, but I think there's questions whether these teams are going to be. Rockies are our team that's going to trade, but
Yes.
you've got. I think Senzatella is the guy that can get from the Rockies. He will be traded, I think. I'm not sure they'll trade a catcher with 3 more years to go, but yeah, I'm with you. The Yankees are the best team. Might as well become in the American League.
Yeah.
Might as well make sure that you're by far the best team in the American League. There isn't another really great team in the American League, is there? I
No.
mean, look at the Yankees are performing with Judge out, right? And they're
And
they're doing it
free.
well, right? So
Yeah.
we're pretty convinced, and we were convinced from the beginning. I think at the beginning we both said Yankees are going to be really good. Mets could go either way. So I can't claim we got the Mets right, but we saw issues. But the Yankees are really good, and they should go for it, and they do have prospects. Who they'll be able to get, that's the question here that we're kind of grappling with.
Yeah. One of the reasons the Yankees are really good this year is Cam Schlittler has pitched like an ace and Ben Rice has hit like an MVP candidate. One scout was the guy behind both of those guys. His name is Matt Hyde, and he joins us next on the show. John and I are so excited to have our guest this week. I guess if Cam Schlittler is in play to be the AL Cy Young and Ben Rice is in play to be the AL MVP, then maybe the real MVP of the whole league is our guest this week, Matt Hyde, who's been a scout with the Yankees in the New England area since 2005. Matt, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Joel, great to be here. And as my wife pointed out, I'm not even the MVP of our house. So
Well, do 20 minutes with us and we'll see if we can elevate your perception in your house and around the sport. Man, I wonder if that's a place to start is like it isn't like you could go to Baseball Reference and find the Matt Hyde page and know all about this. I'm sure it's a long journey. I wonder if you could give us a little idea of you've been with the Yankees since 2005. How'd you get there?
well, it's a long road as it is for all of us, but it started in the Cape Cod Baseball League for me a long, long time ago when I was a bat boy, and it's grown into this job today. I've never done anything away from the game, which is such a blessing. But it goes back to connections. And my best friend in high school, I went to Phillips Academy, Andover, and my best friend was a guy named Gus Quattlebaum, and he had scouted for the Yankees at one point, and he was tight with Damon Oppenheimer, and I was a college baseball coach at the time at Harvard, and he asked me if I'd be interested in scouting in the Northeast, and that's how he connected me with Damon, and the rest is history.
Amazing, amazing. It's worked out very well for you, but even better for the Yankees. Let me get to the two players. Well, I'll start with one of the two players that one could be the MVP, one the Cy Young. I'll start with the potential MVP. I mean, Ben Rice is a nice young man. He went to Dartmouth. How did you discover that this guy could be a slugger in Major League Baseball? I mean, he didn't even play for 2 straight years due to COVID. The Ivy League canceled. What did you see in him that made you think that this guy could be a Major League star?
Well, I don't know if anybody would have guessed that he'd be in the position he is in now. And it's just a testament to the work that he's put in and the makeup and the character. But he played in the Futures Collegiate League during the summer of 2020. And at that point in time, the Futures League was the only show in town. There was no Cape Cod Baseball League. There was no New England Collegiate League. The Futures League was the only league that actually played. And Ben Rice was playing for the Worcester Bravehearts. And at the end of a tied game after 9 innings, they do a home run hitting contest to see who the winner of the game was. And Ben would be the guy who would come up. And that's when I first really started to take note of the big left handed power in the bat. And then, as fate would have it, Damon Oppenheimer, our scouting director, that fall lived in Malden, Massachusetts, right outside of Boston, because his son Garrick was playing hockey in the area. And Ben and a couple of his buddies organized this kind of pickup league in Northborough, Massachusetts at the New England Baseball Complex. So Damon and I would go over there and watch him. And to have the scouting director there with you confirming what you're seeing with your eyes makes such a big difference. And Damon is the scouting director, but he scouts like he's an area scout. He's got a great passion for players. He's got a great passion for being at the ballpark. And we got to spend so much time around Ben Rice that it even went into the following spring. I kept on kind of checking in with him once a week. He'd hit with his dad. He'd go over to the New England Baseball Complex and take batting practice. He'd have simulated at bats against pitchers who were throwing from other Ivy League schools. And then he played in a men's league called the Cranberry League for the Braintree White Sox. And I watched him play in the men's league. And you just, what I saw was a guy who loved being at the ballpark. He looked like a Yankee, physical, strong, left-handed power, and you're just drawn to the upside of what he could be. And Damon loved him the most, honestly. Damon was ready to take him in about the fifth round. And it's a great story of scouting the scouts and kind of being aware of where we could take him. We could wait a little bit. And with those picks, we were able to get, Damon was able to take Will Warren and Richard Fitz and Jack Neely, all big league pitchers. And then we took Ben. But it was so much fun. You really have to get to know the heartbeat of the player to understand the capability of what they could be. And with Ben, I think we had a really high comfort level that he was going to maximize his ability, which is all you can ask for.
I wonder if, just to put a finer point on this, I mean, Ben Rice was a 12th round draft pick in 2021, number 363, all around. You mentioned that you were thinking about it as early as the fifth round. Uh, Anyone you talk to will say nobody is connected in the New England area as Matt Hyde. No one is as passionate. Nobody works as hard. Were you the only guys watching him that you like you said you played the scouts a little bit where you were like, or were you sweating every round saying, Damon, come on, man, Ben Rice time, Ben Rice time. Tell us about that.
I think I'm sweating it out even more now because I'm glad we got him. Geez, I mean, if we hadn't got him, I think I'd be devastated for life. But yeah, there were other teams on him and guys that I really respect who did a lot of quality scouting of him. But you know, everybody was running into this problem in the scouting industry. There wasn't enough history on him. There wasn't a lot of data. There wasn't a lot of things that you could hang your hat on other than what you saw with your eyes and what you heard with your ears. There was questions about whether he could catch long term. We didn't know if he could play first base. We were thinking that could be an option for him. So there are a lot of question marks, and that's where the familiarity, the history of being there a lot and watching him, just increase the comfort level. But if you just kind of went in there and just saw him one time, it would be easy to keep on walking and walk away from him.
How do you gather the intel? How do you know what the other teams are thinking? Now, 362 picks passed before Ben Rice, but I mean, you can observe who's at the games, and you were obviously at a ton of games that he played, and maybe you didn't see other guys, but I mean, if you ask somebody, another scout is there, can you trust that he'd tell the truth? And would you tell the truth about your opinion about a player to another team scout?
Well, it's a combination of a lot of things, but experience plays a huge role in all this of, um, going to different sources and doing some digging behind the scenes, including Ben of, hey, Ben, who's been talking to you lately? You know, and then what workouts have you been going to? Or, what are people saying to you? Just to give, and he was playing for Katuitt in the Cape Cod Baseball League leading up to the draft. So I could go to Mike Roberts, who was coaching Katuitt, and say, hey, what are guys saying? So you kind of get a feel for what the opinions are. And that plays a big role. And the draft is a creative process, and there's a lot of strategy that goes into it. And part of that strategy is peeling back the layers of who's really on the guy.
Why don't we flip to the other guy, Cam Schlittler? Again, seventh round. Not, I mean, Adam Ottavino, hold your ears. Not a baseball factory, Northeastern, right? 20. What was it? The 2022 draft. Tell us about that process, because again, that is not the Cam Schlittler we see today, right? It was far from this finished product with high-end velocity and a stronger body and secondary stuff, notably a cutter. What did you see to kind of push Damon in that direction?
Well, it's funny when Damon was living in Malden, he actually saw a young Cam Schlittler and wasn't sure if he was eligible at the time, just because he was over at Northeastern watching him throw a bullpen, and Damon put in the first report on him, which is an interesting nugget. But the history with Cam went back to high school when we had him play in our annual summer rivalry classic, we call it, where one team's the Yankees and one team's the Red Sox, scout teams. But the interesting thing about Cam, his sophomore year, he was really good. I mean, he was up to 95. He had a dominant year. I mean, he was trending upwards. I think there were a lot of teams that had him in the top 5 rounds easy based on how he pitched that sophomore year. And he went to the Cape, and he had some good outings. He had some not so good outings. But he went into his junior year as a priority guy for most teams to scout. And he just had this kind of roller coaster of a spring. And there were some weekends where he got pushed, to Saturday or Sunday. He wasn't always the Friday starter because he had his ups and downs. But I think what came into play here is we got very lucky with the looks that we had at Cam. He had 3 really good outings. One was against North Carolina State early in the year. One was against Elon, kind of in the middle, and one was in the conference tournament at the end. And a young scout by the name of Ricky Castle, Scott Lovecamp, who's in charge of all our pitching scouting nationally, he had identified Cam early on as a guy that we should stay on. Size, strike thrower, projection, and he made sure that Ricky was down in that area. Ricky, make sure to go see this guy. He saw him against NC State, loved him, and then as fate would have it, he saw him in the conference tournament. So we got really good reports from Ricky. Damon had been around him enough, and we have a great relationship with Mike Glavin, the head coach at Northeastern. And Glav thought he was going to be a big league starter, throwing 95 with a good changeup at the time. And when Glav says that about a guy, that really gives us a lot of confidence. And Tim Kelly, our cross checker, who was looking at my players, came in and got a great look. And then we had him at our pre-draft workout, and our performance science team thought that they could easily add 20 pounds to him. And then he gets into our system, and our player development people taught him so much, and really got him to embrace different pitches. We found out that he could make adjustments really quickly, and they really got to get the most out of Cam Schlittler once we got him in our system. But it was a really cool process. I mean, it involved a lot of people and a lot of looks. And again, this is a guy that we had identified kind of early on. And because of that kind of roller coaster spring, he slipped a little bit in the draft to where we could get him in the seventh round.
We've had him on our podcast. He's a very confident young man, very strong personality. I wonder in your scouting assessment, a lot, I'm sure a lot of it or most of it is about the talent that you see, with the breaking pitch, the velocity, all that. How much does the personality weigh into it? For both guys. I mean, look, Rice is a very bright guy. He's kind of a Renaissance guy. He taught himself Spanish. I mean, they're both great character guys, I think. But how much of a factor is that in your decisions?
It's a huge factor, and it's something that Damon really stresses with us. As he says, get to the other side of the fence, get to know the player. And the one thing we've been really, really good at as a scouting department is nailing the makeup of the player. And it's not just, is it a good guy, but can this guy compete? Can he make adjustments? Is he coachable? Is he willing to have a growth mindset? And is he going to put the work in when the game kicks him in the face and he's not the shiny toy that everybody loves, and he's got to earn it? And I think that whole concept of finding out, if that player has the willingness to earn it is what we've done a really good job of. And it's a huge separator, John. I mean, it's what it's all about. Every player has a heartbeat, and if you don't know that heartbeat of the player, you could get a real talented guy who doesn't work and doesn't become what he can be. Or you can get these two guys that, embrace the opportunity and took off with it. And, it's interesting, both Ben and Cam, I mean, honestly, they go about their business the same now as when they were amateur players, as far as the love of the game and the love of competition and not being afraid to being in the arena. There's a lot of players that like being comfortable. They only like it when things are going good. These two guys would embrace the tough games and the tough situations. And that's one of the biggest parts of our job, is to see that and watch how they handle failure and watch how they grow to become better players.
John used the word with Cam. I would say with both is John and I were lucky, right? Like part of our career covers Derek Jeter and Mariano Rivera, who I think are the two most self-confident players I've ever covered in 40 years. I'll say that I'm not sure anyone will ever get there, but I don't think they're faking it at all. I think Cam and Ben are two of the most confident players I've been around. Like because again, like their self-confidence when we kept wondering if this is a fluke. Like they were like Ben Rice would look at me when I'd ask questions like I was crazy, like I didn't see what he saw, which was that he was going to be really good. Uh, I wonder what you think of the ceiling they've gotten to. Again, we're talking about them not just being good players on a contending team, but Aaron Judge is out right now. Ben Rice is a difference maker. Max Fried is out now, and Garrett Cole was out early in the season. Cam Schlittler has been the ace of the team. Just wonder what you think of this ceiling that they've hit.
Well, I'm just very proud of both of them because they haven't changed. Joel, I can talk to both of them, and they're both the same kids. They're very humble, along with being confident. They don't take themselves all that seriously, meaning they don't think that they've arrived. And I've seen this characteristic in really successful players, and you probably saw it in Jeter and Mariano. I mean, it's all about the next game, the next play. They don't sit in bask in the glory of what they've done. It's always about the next game and winning, and what are they going to do to help the team. And Ben and Cam have that trait. They're very team oriented, and I think that helps them maximize their ceiling because they're all about the W's and the L's. That matters to them. That's significant to them. And they both come from backgrounds that embrace that. I mean, Ben's hockey background, going to the rink. He played very competitive high school hockey in a part of New England where it's a big deal. And Cam playing at Northeastern, you can't be a soft makeup guy and play at Northeastern. You have to be a grinder, you have to be a lunch pail guy. You can be the most talented guy in the world, but you have to play within a team concept. And I think that helps both of those guys a lot.
You're obviously a New England guy with roots in the Cape and at Harvard, and you've gotten these players, one out of Walpole and Northeastern, another out of Cohasset and Dartmouth. You mentioned that Gus Quattlebaum was the guy who first recommended you for the Yankees. Now he is with the Red Sox now, I believe, right? And you're sitting there in New England. You're in the Boston area somewhere, I believe. I mean, do you ever have any interaction with the Red Sox? Are they ever going to either get mad at you or try to hire you, or what's the story there? Do you feel like I'm sure you grew up a Red Sox fan. How do you feel about all this?
Well, it definitely is always a joking matter at family occasions. And, I have had some people now, I show up at the ballpark and they say, hey, get out of here. You've already gotten Cam and Ben. Leave this guy alone. You can't get another guy. But I think it's really interesting, John. Ray Fagnant is the Northeast area scout for the Red Sox. And Ray and I are best of friends. We're like brothers. And we've done a lot of things up here in the Northeast to help grow the game. And I couldn't have done it without Ray. And we're very much a team when it comes to promoting the game in New England. And it's funny, Ray and I laugh about it because we'll be standing together at a game and people will get mad that the Red Sox and Yankees are actually interacting at the ballpark. But no, it's a rivalry. And as Reggie Jackson said, they don't boo nobodies. And I think it's something that I've always embraced. I think that the standards of the Yankees are something that people treasure and value. And you carry yourself a little different. You dress professionally, you act professionally, and I think people really respect that. And but it is funny because I went into career day at my fourth graders elementary school, and I had my Yankee stuff on, and I got booed a little bit. And that's all part of it. But I think
They start them young, man.
I know, it's unbelievable. But that's what you want. You want fans that are passionate about the game, and for Ben and Cam, certainly they grew up in that same environment, and they know what it means to root for their teams that they love.
You mentioned your relationship with Ray. I will say that no matter who you talk to, people talk about how you've grown the game up there. The Northeast Code stuff where you're one of the managers all the time, your lifelong affiliation with the Cape Cod League, literally lifelong, right? That's where you started your love of baseball. So I wonder if I could end this by asking you about somebody who once played for the Brewster Whitecaps and you put in a report on, and that was a rising junior named Aaron Judge, who came to the Cape League. What did you see, and what do you know? You wrote one of the reports. I mean, and the team took him, and that was not whatever anyone thinks today. That was not a no-brainer for a player his size back then. Obviously, he got through the first 30 odd picks before he got to you, so that says a lot. What'd you see when you saw him with Brewster?
Well, it's a really great story, Joel, and it goes back to the summer of 1993. And I was catching a home run hitting contest in Falmouth in the Cape between Darren Erstead and a guy who was playing on the other team. This group of former professional players was called the Gray Sox, and George Foster was the guy. And George Foster gets in there with this big heavy bat, and he's hitting balls on a line over the fence in left field at Falmouth into this pond that no one ever hits any balls. And anyway, so fast forward to the summer of, I believe it was 2012. And I'm at Falmouth. And one of my best friends, John Schiffner, was the manager of the Chatham A's and all-time winningest coach in the Cape. And Schiff had told me about Aaron Judge already. He said, "You've got to check out this kid on Brewster. He plays the game hard. He steals bases. He's huge." And he said, "I think he's a Yankee." And so in comes Brewster to Falmouth, and they start taking BP, and I see Judge for the first time. And he's hitting balls on a line over the fence in left field into the pond. I hadn't seen anybody do it since George Foster. And as fate would have it, Damon calls me as I'm sitting there. And he was just getting down to the Cape. And I said, "Damon, I'm watching a guy do something I haven't seen since George Foster." And I said, "This is a guy you definitely have to watch while you're down here." And then we did the workout day. We do a workout day for all 10 Cape Cod League teams at Fenway Park. It's a great opportunity to see these college kids on a big league field. And that day and that summer that Aaron played in the Cape, when he worked out, he looked like the best player in the league by far. And I remember I went out of my way just to talk to him a little bit about like how is a guy your size able to have such a nice short compact swing, hit the ball hard on the line the way you do. And Damon, of course, was there in the stands. And I think that impression that he had watching Aaron in that ballpark on that day uh, led to obviously one of the greatest picks in Yankee history. But it goes back to the experiences that you have and the stories you remember, and then all of a sudden you see it in the present and you go, "I've seen that before."
Yeah, well, you have a good memory. George Forster, of course, of the great Big Red Machines, had 50 homers one year. Uh, Matt, obviously, we hit some of the high stuff here. You have helped the Red Sox a little, right? Mickey Gaspar was a Yankee draft pick. You scouted him. He's catching for the Red Sox now. I remember talking to Mike Ford, so I know you had a lot to do when he was an undrafted free agent. You're one of the most respected guys. I know you write reports on guys like Austin Wells along the way. You were very involved in Volpe's draft. We wanted to hit the high points, but I didn't want to let you go without pointing out it isn't just the high points. You've done this for a long time. You're one of the most trusted guys in the organization. You've brought real attention to that area and baseball, which will be your legacy even beyond Schlittler and Rice. And John and I really appreciate you joining us on the show.
Oh, this is great. Thanks, Joel. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks a lot.
Great seeing you guys.
John and I, of course, thank Matt Hyde for joining us on the show. John, hit or error?
Well, I'm on an error streak. I'm going to give out three errors. Yesterday was the anniversary of the Devers trade to the Giants. We're going to give out three errors on this one because I called that a good trade for both teams at the time. It was a bad trade for both teams in the end. The Giants got a guy who was not performing like his stats suggested he would. He's not a malcontent, and he is playing some first base. But Devers is not living up to that contract, and now they've got a guy that they probably should trade, but would have to pay it way down to do that. The Red Sox made a great trade at the moment, getting Harrison in that deal. Kyle Harrison, who's become a great pitcher, but for the Brewers, they traded him to the Brewers. So as it turned out, I mean, I don't think they can regret the whole thing in its entirety because they needed to trade Devers. There was no question about that, but they should have held on to Harrison, who's one of the better pitchers in the National League. And I get myself an E or an L or whatever we call an E, right, for an error
Yeah.
because I said that was good for both teams. It was bad for both teams in the end.
John, we don't talk beforehand, so we don't know what we're doing. I believe in that trade, the Red Sox also got an outfield prospect. I think his name is James Tibbs, who they traded to the Dodgers for Dustin May, who was terrible for the Red Sox. And I think Tibbs is now a top five
Yes,
prospect for the Dodgers. So like
right.
the wings of it, like the Red Sox did fine in the trade and then decided how can we destroy doing fine in the trade? Like so.
Right, and the Giants, Tibbs is now helping the Dodgers. Now, like the Dodgers need any help. I mean, he's killing it in the minors, but it's hard to break into the Dodgers. Once somebody breaks into the Dodgers, they end up being a star, right? everybody they call up is a star, and I'm sure that he will be too. But yeah, it's an E all around for all of us, including myself.
Yeah. John, you know I love basketballs, but one time I was talking to a guy who was a basketball scout, and I said like, what? And I was curious about his job, and I was asking, and one of the things he said to me, he said, it's very important when you do what we do to make sure we get players who don't suck. And I was like, what? And he goes, like, everyone we put on the court has to be an NBA player. Like, that's how you get good. Like, you can't just give minutes. The league is too good to give minutes. And that flowed into something that the Rays guys once told, the Tampa Bay Ray guys once told me, which is like they think of their roster 40 to 1 instead of 1 to 40 because they can't afford the guy at the top. So, like, they want to make sure whoever they put on the field is at least major league average, has qualities
Yeah.
they could do it. I bring that up because, like, I was as thinking of ways, I think both of us thought the Yankees did a good job of creating depth this year. And one of the things they've done is like they don't put players on the field who suck. And like, and to emphasize that, I went and looked. WAR is not perfect, but just to use WAR, the worst WAR on anyone on the Yankees is 65th in the major leagues is Ascara. Then you drop to 124 to Wells. It's both of their catchers to the point of what they need. You know, like then Rosario is a little further down. Like, in other words, they have one guy in the top 125 for position players. In pitchers, would you like to know how far you've got to go? You've got to go to 207 for Luis Gil. Over 200 players till you get the negative WAR guy who's the Yankee guy. And I just think it's another way of showing like the Yankees built depth this year in part by like not having players who suck.
Yeah, I mean they had Goldschmidt and Rosario were great pickups for 4 million and 2.5 million. We talk about how much money these teams spend. They got guys that were bargains. I think Goldschmidt wanted to come back and probably doesn't need the money that badly. And he's doing great. Goldschmidt has been great, and I think he's probably a Hall. I think he is a Hall. My opinion, I think he's a Hall
He's
of
helping
Famer.
his case, right?
I think he is. So, and Rosario is a great backup. He's great for a team. And just looking at it, he and Polanco have the same agent, and the agent got $20 million from the Mets for Polanco and got 2.5 million for Rosario. Not that it was a bad deal to get that Rosario had some great other offers hanging out there. People for whatever reason didn't think he was more valuable than that. Well, he is, and they did a great job filling out their roster.
Yeah, they have real depth. And I know like Yankee fans have beat up like the idea of like Blackburn and Yarborough, but like they've combined to eat innings and they're placeholders until other guys come along. Like they've done fine. Like the team has the best record in the
Is that
American.
what they're worried about? I mean,
Yes. I have friends who are Yankee fans. It's like I ask them all the time, are you only happy when you're miserable? And it's like, oh, like these
I,
guys, I'm like you're the best team in the league by a lot.
yeah,
It's
it's
probably
not
gonna
even
win.
close. I mean, I
Yeah.
think the National League probably has three teams that have performed better to this point, but
Can I?
going forward, I mean, the Braves have got injuries and issues and
Oh,
things going on, but Yankees going forward, looking at it right now, who's got the best chance other than the Dodgers? Yankees might be second. I don't know. Milwaukee's got a shot there, right, with the Miz and our friend Harrison doing
yeah.
well, but they got a great shot at it, and they are the best team in the American League, and there's no competition for that, right? I mean, I know you like Seattle, and
I just
Tampa's
think
got a
they're
good
better than
record.
they've
Tampa's
played.
not that good. Look at their run differential.
Yeah.
They I don't want to say lucky. They won those games, but they're not as good as the Yankees. Not even close.
Yeah, when the season began, John, I thought the four best teams in the AL were going to be the Yankees, Blue Jays, Tigers, and Mariners. And some of those teams, I mean, I think they're all the two of them besides Seattle are under 500. Detroit is the Mets of the American League. I
I
will
mean,
say,
Tiger. We have a few of the Red Sox
yeah,
are. I thought the Red Sox would be pretty good,
I thought the
right?
Red Sox were going to be like we're in that next
And I
tier.
thought the Orioles might be pretty. Now we'll see. When the Orioles are still kind of on the fence right now. I mean, the Red Sox, Mets, Tigers, they gotta turn it around. But
Yeah.
yeah, there have been some abject disappointments in the American League. American League is not good, and the Yankees are at least as good as we thought they were going to be, and probably better. I mean, Schlittler is carrying it forward, right? I mean, Rice, MVP candidate, all their players performing, as you pointed out astutely. They're all performing what they should be. They're all doing what they should be doing.
Yeah, and I'll just throw in one other thing, John, because you alluded to it. Sitting and watching the Mets play the Braves, including at the ballpark, I think the Braves have a little issue right now. Like just a little. I mean, they've got a comfortable lead. I think they might still have the best record in the National League, but the loss of Strider, and they've had a lot of starting pitching injuries, and they've had a lot of people, to me, Dom Smith, Bryce Elder, Jorge Mateo, just play way above their heads. Uh, they really need their third baseman to play much better than he's played. I don't know what's happened to Austin Riley. Look, I still think they're really good. I think their GM is very aggressive and will fix some stuff between
They don't
now and
have great
start.
prospects though
Yeah.
in terms of the trades.
Yeah,
So
but he always finds a way. He's one of those
yeah,
guys. He's like the quieter version of Preller. He does find a way when he has a good team to
yeah,
address the team at the
right. I
deadline.
mean, they had a losing record in August in 2021 and ended up World Series champions. They're very creative. They do a great job down there, but they do have issues, and you've laid them all out. It's I mean, I'd feel better if I'm Milwaukee or certainly the Dodgers. I'd feel better about the situation now than the Braves.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. We always feel good about the situation when Tommy Hogan's around. He's our producer extraordinaire. He helped us again today, jumped on early to help us do the show. We always appreciate you, Tommy. Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, please rate and review us. The New York Post Sports YouTube page, give us a view, and please continue to stick with us on the show with Joel Sherman and Jon Heyman.